It's time for the Financial Crisis Talk Center with Ken Gross and David Einstandig from Thav Gross.
Credit card debt is number one. I view it as financial cancer.
40% of your gross income is going to just pay the debt service. You got no chance of getting out.
I would give up my credit score to get rid of debt.
Here's your host, Ken Gross.
Financial Crisis Talk Center, topic of the day with Brian Small and Ken Gross from Thav Gross. We're going to kill the issue of how do I settle credit card debt? How do you really go about doing it? Is it fact or fiction? Is it easy? Is it difficult? When is it smart? When is it not smart? What's the right time to do it? What's the wrong time to do it? Golden rule that you start with is what, Brian?
Preserve your future income for you and your family. Do not pay debts of the past with your income of the future.
You got it. And that's the golden rule. And that golden rule doesn't respond or say anything about credit card debt, because that's the general golden rule of financial crisis management. Whether credit card debt settlement is the right thing or the wrong thing to do, that's one of the tools of financial crisis management. Sometimes we do it. Sometimes we say it's not the smart play. Now, here's how I want to do it. I want to do an imaginary case study, and I picked names actually from, I don't know, sometimes I'm bad on names. I picked the same names that I used for a couple out of my book, Dump Your Debt, Jeff and Wendy, but the facts are different than in the book. Here are the facts, and we're going to lay them out for you, and then we're going to analyze them. They have a house. Fair market value today, $325,000. In 2007, that house was worth $525,000. First mortgage, $375,000. Second mortgage, $125,000. They are underwater. A little quick math. Get your calculators out. They're underwater, $175,000 on their home. Now, this is just background because we're talking about, remember, credit card debt. Annual income for Jeff and Wendy, they're not broke. They're making $180,000 a year, $15K a month. So they've got good, solid income. 401 and IRAs, they've got $150,000 in their retirement funds.
But there's a problem, isn't there? How much credit card debt do they have?
They have $100,000 of credit card debt.
Which, to our listeners, may sound like an extreme amount of money. But I'm going to tell you right now, I regularly see people coming in with $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 in credit card debt. It is mind-boggling because 20 years ago I would see people coming in with $12,000 to $15,000 for the credit card debt. How it's gotten to be so extreme?
Banks make a lot of money by issuing credit cards and charging somewhere between 15 and 30% interest. And if they don't issue those credit cards and people don't use them, banks don't make any money. So it's out there, and I agree with you. It's not uncommon amount. Is it financial cancer? Absolutely. We've talked about it on the show before. If they're paying 20% interest on $100,000 of credit card debt, they're paying $20,000 a year of juice. And I call it juice because if I loan you money, Brian, the most I can charge you is 5% verbally, 7% in writing. But for some reason, a bank in our country is allowed to charge you 30%, and it's not usurious because of what we call the Commerce Clause, which is
legal loan sharking.
It is legal loan sharking, and that's why they call it juice. The only difference is if you don't pay the juice to the loan shark, he breaks your arms. If you don't pay the juice to the credit card company, you have happiness at the end of the day if you do it the right way. So there is a little bit of difference between the two creditors. All right, now, so I've got $100,000 of credit card debt. In my example, they're paying $2,500 a month in their minimum payments, 2.5%, and I gave them an 18% interest rate. I didn't want to go 20% for the time being.
For the listeners, so that they realize, the average minimum monthly payment on your credit cards, any credit card, is 2.5% of your debt. So that number is a realistic number. $2,500 a month on $100,000 of credit card debt is right.
So that's where you get the $2,500. By the way, I always forget to remind people that if you text to 91067 and enter the word debt, you're eligible for a free copy of the book Dump Your Debt. We give away about 5 of them a month. So we're not even to the midpoint of February. So text out 91067, enter the word debt, and then you're eligible for a free copy of the book Dump Your Debt. I want to mention our sponsors, Cronin Law Firm, Gold Star Law, Ben Johnson Law. Appreciate the support. All good lawyers doing things that we don't do. Ben Johnson, Supreme Personal Injury Lawyer. Cronin Law Firm, Family Law, Criminal Law, does a great job. Gold Star Law, Employment Law. All issues that people are looking at out there daily in the workplace and just in your lives that you need to look for. And these are all great lawyers and great firms, and we certainly appreciate the sponsorship.
So Jeff and Wendy are a typical couple, basically, at this point. Typical family with typical financial problems, struggling through their days. What do we do?
Here's what we have to look at. What about the house? Because that house has a second mortgage and it's underwater and the value of that first mortgage is greater than the value of the house, is a Chapter 13 lien strip in play? I need to know this before I go further, and I also need to know what are the tax consequences that we're looking at, because we can't just say, let's settle the $100,000 worth of debt, because the first rule is we have to find the cheapest way of getting rid of the debt and the smartest way. We don't just dig in and say we can do it, we can take road B if road A is a smarter road.
Well, this is where the analysis comes in of looking at all the tools of financial crisis management, because if you just look at Chapter 13, you're going to find that these people legally qualify for Chapter 13. And lien stripping of the second mortgage is legally available.
Which would mean, for backing up, if you lien strip the second mortgage, you turn it into an unsecured debt. You turn it into the same thing as a credit card debt. So in our case, we have a second mortgage of $125,000. Instead of having $100,000 of credit card debt unsecured, we'd have $225,000 of unsecured debt in a Chapter 13, which sounds like that's a great way to get rid of $225,000, except sometimes there's a but.
Oh.
And in this case, the but comes from what, Brian?
Well, the but comes from the fact that in a Chapter 13, this would be an extraordinarily expensive Chapter 13. And
because?
When you account for...
Why?
Because you've got $2,500 available just to pay your unsecured creditors.
Because of their income.
Yes, and their income is far too high. They're going to fail what's called the means test, and they're going to be required to pay back almost everything in full no matter what. So you can do better
at the end of the day,
non-bankruptcy.
If they have their $15,000 worth of debt and they don't have to pay any credit card debt or the second mortgage, they're going to be paying $5,000-$6,000 a month over 60 months to their creditors, which is more than that they owe. So Chapter 13 is not really a viable alternative for them, is it?
When we come back, we'll talk about what is.
You got it. We're going to take a break. We'll be back after the break.
No one ever thinks that a serious injury can happen to them, but it can, and it does. And it can happen to you. And when it does, you need a fighter in that courtroom for you. Call me, Ben Johnson. Automobile accident, police misconduct, medical malpractice, product liability. You know what you're up against, how hard it is to get answers. When all you want is justice, call me, Ben Johnson. Whatever your legal crisis, I will fight for you. Call me today.
Ken Gross, attorney, talk show host, and leader in the law, reveals his secrets to leveling the financial playing field in his book, Dump Your Debt.
The rules of the game have changed. Now the banks get the bailouts at our expense. Dump Your Debt is your bailout. It tells you what you need to know to shed credit card debt, solve tax problems, and exit a house underwater.
Buy Dump Your Debt online at Amazon.com.
It's the game changer you deserve.
You like your job. What you don't like is the way your boss has been treating you. He's making comments about how you look instead of your work, and he's been touching you inappropriately. If you complain, is he allowed to fire you? Absolutely not. Unwelcome sexual comments, advances, and contact are illegal in the workplace. Make him pay. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Carrying too much debt? Dump your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Thav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Don't let legal problems destroy your family or your life. Get the justice you deserve. I'm Sabrina Cronin of the Cronin Law Firm, and I'm here to make things right. My firm handles family law, business law, and even criminal law. We can handle all of your legal needs. So whatever you're facing, I'm here to get you justice. You can't afford not to call. Call 855-CRONIN-LAW today.
Welcome back. All right, so I'm with Brian Small. You got two guys from Thavgross. We're attorneys. We're examining this issue of Jeff and Wendy's credit card debt. Here's where we are right now. They have $180,000 a year of income. They have too much income to do a Chapter 13. What that means is they could file a Chapter 13, but they'd have to pay back all of the debt in the 13. There wouldn't be a benefit to doing it, so Chapter 13 is out.
I mean, understand there is a minor benefit, which is if you're going to pay back all the debt, at least you get to pay it back at no interest.
And you get rid of the lien on the house.
And you do get rid of the lien on the house, and you're done with your mortgage in
Right,
5 years instead of 30.
In this case, it's not the viable, optimal solution, so we're going to say...
it's stupid,
we're
actually.
Say it's not going to work. Now the next question is this. We could settle the credit card debt, but before we go into that step, we have to analyze what are the tax consequences of the action we're talking about taking. Well, had we filed a bankruptcy, we know in bankruptcy, cancellation of indebtedness is not income if you are under bankruptcy protection because there's a specific law that says cancellation of a debt is not taxable to you if you filed a bankruptcy.
However,
if not,
potentially, when you can't have cancellation of debt outside of bankruptcy, it is potentially a taxable event. You start off with the fact that it is a taxable event, but there are reasons why it might not become taxable.
Let's step back for 1 second and say, why is it taxable? The reason is this. When you get the credit, when they give you the money, let's say you take a credit card and you go and you charge $25,000 worth of debt. At that point, you're borrowing the money. When you borrow money, it's not taxable to you because it's not income. But if instead of borrowing the money, you were just given $25,000, it's not an excludable gift in that case. It's like winning a prize in a lottery or gambling. When you come into that kind of
just
income,
getting some wages,
it's taxable to you. Well, when the creditor cancels the debt, they're saying the $25,000 you already have that we loaned to you is now yours to keep. You don't have to pay it back. It becomes income. The biggest problem for people in that situation is it's becoming income 3-4 years after the fact that you got the money, so you've spent the money and you don't have the money to pay the taxes. So when any time you get stuck with taxable income as a result of cancellation of indebtedness, it's a big problem. Now, there are 3 exceptions. Bankruptcy is one. If you're canceled debt on a mortgage on your principal residence that went to the purchase or improvement of a home, that's the second. And the third is what we call the insolvency test. On the insolvency test, if you're insolvent before the cancellation of indebtedness and after, it is not taxable to you. If the cancellation takes you from being insolvent to solvent to the extent of solvency that's created, it would be taxable to you.
To translate, if you owe more...
Put it in English.
If you owe more both before and after your debt gets forgiven, then you are worth. Then the debt cancellation is not a taxable event.
So I'm really glad that clarified it for everybody. All right, let's use some easy numbers. Jeff and Wendy, their assets right now, or the only asset they have is $150,000 in retirement money. Because we're going to take the house on a net basis, it's a negative $175,000. They have $100,000 of credit card debt. So they have $275,000 of bad. They have $150,000 of good. They're insolvent by $125,000. What that means is if they go and they settle all of their credit card debt and get rid of the $100,000, they will then be insolvent by $25,000, which means they will still be insolvent because of that underwater house, and therefore they will have no tax consequences if they settle their credit card debt. So it's a good thing. What's interesting about it from the standpoint of the way we look at these things is, as bad as a house underwater is in some respects, it acts as a shield to create underwater insolvency that will allow you to then settle your credit card debt without a tax consequence.
But let's beware. You gotta, if you're gonna utilize first the insolvency of the credit card so you get rid of it without a taxable event, and your intention is to get rid of your house also, so timing is key. Watch out for the fact that the Mortgage Forgiveness Act is only extended through the end of this year, and next year, if you short sell your house after doing this, it might be a taxable event.
Unless they extend it. So yeah, so what it comes down to on a planning thing, if Jeff and Wendy also wanted to short sell their house, timing is going to be difficult. Could you settle all of their credit card debt in 2013 first, and then short sell the house and get it closed by December 31? You probably could do it if you moved really fast, but realistically, I'm betting 70-30 that they extend the cancellation of indebtedness on the sale of an underwater home under the Debt Relief Act another year. They'll keep extending that year to year because housing is still going to be a critical factor to boosting the economy, and getting rid of houses underwater through short sales is something that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and the administration are supporting. So I think it will get extended. In Jeff and Wendy's situation, they need to settle that credit card debt first and then deal with the house. Unless they were coming in and they didn't care about the credit card debt and all they wanted to do was get rid of the home. But the benefit here is at $180,000 of income, they're going to be in a 35% marginal tax bracket plus 4.5% going to the state. They're looking at 40% tax. If you settle $100,000 of credit card debt and you get $60,000 of canceled debt, 40%, that's $24,000 of income tax that you're saving by using the house underwater as your shield. So that house underwater is a good thing for Jeff and Wendy right now. So where are we at? What we have is we got $100,000 of credit card debt. We've now analyzed it and we've said Chapter 13 doesn't work. We didn't even bother with Chapter 7 because we know that doesn't work because they're making $180,000 worth of income. You're not going to be able to file a Chapter 7 discharge bankruptcy. We've now gone through and analyzed the tax consequences and concluded that they can settle that credit card debt with no tax consequence. So now they are right to do debt resolution on their credit cards. And the question is, how does that work? How do we go about doing it? What's it going to cost them? How are they going to pay for it? Those are the issues. After the break, you'll get the answers.
Don't let legal problems destroy your family or your life. Get the justice you deserve. I'm Sabrina Cronin of the Cronin Law Firm, and I'm here to make things right. My firm handles family law, business law, and even criminal law. We can handle all of your legal needs. So whatever you're facing, I'm here to get you justice. You can't afford not to call. Call 855-CRONIN-LAW today.
Do you have tax problems, unfiled returns? Facing levies on wages in your property? You need an expert, not a cartoon character or salesman. Thav Gross is your solution.
You need to look at the big picture. That's what we do. We develop a plan that's right for you.
I had major tax problems. I didn't know what to do.
We did. We sat down together and solved your tax problem.
No more letters, no more phone calls. They saved me.
Call Thav Gross, 888-235-HELP.
Going from hourly to salary seemed like a good career move, but now you're working 60 hours a week instead of 40, and you aren't getting paid any of that extra time. You're stuck, right? Wrong. You can be on salary and still be entitled to overtime. If you've been wrongly denied such pay, you may be entitled to that and more. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
Thav Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
No one ever thinks that a serious injury can happen to them, but it can, and it does. And it can happen to you. And when it does, you need a fighter in that courtroom for you. Call me, Ben Johnson.
automobile accident, police misconduct, medical malpractice, product liability. You know what you're up against, how hard it is to get answers. When all you want is justice, call me, Ben Johnson. Whatever your legal crisis, I will fight for you. Call me today.
Welcome back. All right, so Jeff and Wendy are in the office. We've done the analysis. They've got $100,000 of credit card debt. They've got their statements from their credit card companies: Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, Capital One, HSBC, Citi. I don't want to leave any of these guys out.
They are only paying
U.S. Bank.
And Jeff and Wendy are
Credit
only
Union
paying
One.
the minimum monthly payments, right?
Maybe a little bit more, but generally they're paying $2,500 a month.
To let the consumers that are out there and the listeners know out there, what that means is when you add up all the debt that's being paid, that $100,000 is probably going to cost about $225,000 over between 22 and 28 years to pay off.
More. You look at that credit card statement. If you pay the minimum payment, usually it says it takes 39 months to pay it off.
I mean, 39 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them are up to that high.
I mean,
so
sick.
now the magic thing is when you look at what you're going to pay over time, let's say $225,000, wouldn't it be better to be done with your debt in less than a year and a half?
You're going too slow. I want to move it up because we're going to run out of time. All right, you got $2,500 a month that you were paying on the credit card debt. All right, multiply the $2,500 times 16. 2,500 times 16 is $40,000. That's going to be in our mind the starting point goal to settle all the credit card debt and include the legal cost of doing it. We charge 7.5% of the debt in order to settle it. So you've got $100,000. It would cost $7,500 to settle the credit card debt. We do it over time, but over that period of time, if you have $40,000, if we have $7,500 in cost, if we can settle all the credit card debt at 32.5% on average, $40,000 in 16 months we're out. The rule that we use when we evaluate someone is if we think we can get it done between 12 and 24 months with the income and the money they've been spending on the credit cards, then the project is a go. If it's more than 24 months, in my mind, the project is a no-go and you have to find a different alternative because there's only so long you can drag out the process of settling the credit card debt before it doesn't work and it becomes too burdensome because some of the creditors might sue because if you don't have the money to settle the credit cards, they're not going to go away. So this is not if you call 1-800 cancel my debt, they make it sound like it's the simplest, easiest program in the world because they're basically lying to you.
Because they argue that it's a 4-year program for most of these programs.
And that doesn't work.
And then they tell you, by the way, we're not a law firm and we won't represent you if you get sued.
So the key is it does work, but you have to know what the pool, how deep the water is, how you're going to swim through the water, rise to the top, towel off, and be free and make it work. But you have to know, are there any fish in the water when you're swimming? Is there a shark out there that you have to look out for? You've got to always know what you're getting into in order to make a smart business decision. This is a smart business decision for Jeff and Wendy. With their $2,500 a month, we should be able to settle that debt in 14 to 16 months and have it done. Now, how do we do it? Well, the first thing that we do is we stop paying. We stop paying, and then we wait. Our firm will then notify the creditors that we're representing you so that they stop constantly calling. Because once everyone knows, if you're an hour late on making a payment on your mortgage nowadays or on a credit card, the phone starts lighting up like it's the 4th of July. They start calling like crazy. When they do call, we tell them, be nice. Just my favorite movie, Roadhouse. You always, what do I say to the guy when he's drunk and he's in my face and he's threatening to kill me? You be nice. What about if he takes out a knife and he sticks it in my face? He says,
be nice.
You be nice for a while and then get rid of him. Well, anyway, what you want to do in this case
until it's time
you're
to
nice
not
to the
be
creditors
nice.
because you don't want to put anything bad into the record. You don't want them making notes in there saying that the person's a lunatic and threatening to kill us. You want to say, person sounds like a nice person. They're having financial difficulty. They're talking to a lawyer. We'll get back to them in 30 days. Then we send them a power of attorney that we're representing them so that they stop calling, and then we wait. We wait until the debts are 150 to 180 days past due, because that is when we're able to make the right deals. And how do you make the deal, Brian? How do you get them to take 20% when they start off wanting 80%? Do you have magic dust?
You know, I wish there was magic dust. It would certainly make the job easier. It's just hard line negotiation. And you have to present the client's position in such a fashion that they realize if they don't take the deal that they're being offered, they're getting nothing. So a lot of strategy is involved with it, including manipulation of the bankruptcy process and potentially making the clients totally uncollectible through other means. And the bottom line is the creditor's going to get nothing the way I want to do it.
And the other thing that we do is you have to know the timing. You have to know who you're dealing with. Some credit card companies are easier to settle with than others. When we go for 32.5% as an average, in this case in our example, I know if he's got a lot of money over in one credit card company, I'm going to do much better than 32%. I'll also know certain other credit card companies we're going to have to settle at 40 and 50%. On average, we want to get to 32 so that we make the 40,000 work, or if it's not 40, it's 42.5 or 45. But the point is, at the end of the day, if Jeff and Wendy do nothing, in 3 years, chances are they're going to have somewhere between $95,000 and $100,000 of credit card debt. They're going to have spent $30,000 in each of those years giving it to the credit card companies, and they're going to be in exactly the same position they are today. If they make the move at the end of 2 years, they're going to have $2,500 a month coming in that they don't have to give to the credit card companies because they're going to have gotten rid of the debt. And their whole financial future is completely turned around in a positive way. That is smart business. That's running your house like a business. It makes perfect sense. That's the key for them. And you got to analyze it. You don't just jump in and do it. You have to plan it carefully. You have to make sure it makes sense. But it's a smart thing to do, and it's preserving your future income for you and your family. I want to remind people, we've got a seminar coming up. It is on March 6th in Bingham Farms or March 13th in Royal Oak Public Library. You want to sign up, go to FCTalkCenter.com or go to thavgross.com or call 888-235-HELP. Want to thank our sponsors, Cronin Law Firm, Gold Star Law, Ben Johnson Law. Any closing comments for this segment, Brian, in terms of credit card debt?
Be smart with your money. Protect your future.
That sounds like a good plan to me. Next segment, we'll be back with the Financial Crisis Talk Center. Thanks for listening. You've got Brian Small, Ken Gross. We'll be back.